Art. You know, if you played that music, like, just randomly during the day, I would suddenly get quiet and then wait for my turn to speak.
So that's how I make you be quiet. I found his mute button. It's called Madison Rising.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Madison Rising, for your hard rockin' Madison Rising intro music.
You want to know what makes me shut up?
What?
The Star Spangled Banner from Madison Rising. Oh, I'll shut it for a whole 3 minutes and 30 seconds or however long it is.
There you go. Good job. Good job.
Which I started my day with that yesterday, I think it was. And, yeah, it was a good day.
Well, good. And welcome to Monday. Is it Monday already? It is Monday already. And we got a treat for you guys. But before we get into the treat that we're going to give you, we got some other stuff to talk about. But welcome to Student of the Gun Radio. If this is your first time, I know I say that a lot, but the fact of the matter is, it's like anything else. You know, everybody out there has a first time. You're a beginner once, but you should be something.
A student for life?
There you go. Something like student for life. And Jared's wearing his Student of the Gun. Oh, holy crap. I am today, too.
Look at that.
I wasn't even thinking. I'm wearing my Student of the Gun, the official limited edition crew shirts that say crew across the back. And I don't wear them often in public unless we're doing something, like, specific.
You know what I want to know?
What?
From everybody that is listening, my mind just went from...
Did you see a squirrel?
Yeah, I really did. I want to know how many of you have iPhone 6s or iPhone 5S or 6s. How many of you have iPhones and how many of you have Androids? That's my question to you. Go to the Facebook page and answer it, please. Thank you.
Okay. Squirrel.
Yeah.
Anyway. That's your survey for today, is how many of you are listening on? Okay. Oh. But no, I don't usually wear the crew shirt unless we're doing something as a group. Like when we're doing...
Is that the crew shirt?
Yeah, this is the crew shirt.
Oh, yeah, it says crew on the back.
Oh, yeah, we did shirts for the entire crew, for Jared and Zach and Paxton and Dallin and so forth. And we've done, filming at various places around the country, and we let everybody kind of wear a uniform. And so we have, obviously, lots of shirts. And every once in a while I'll just reach in the drawer and throw on a shirt and go to work, because I don't dress up every day. Most of the time I'm wearing
shorts and T-shirts.
Yeah, it's Biloxi, Mississippi, and so essentially the uniform in Biloxi from May through October is shorts and a T-shirt and occasionally shoes, but most of the time flip-flops.
Sometimes.
Or thongs, depending on where you live in the world.
I don't wear thongs. So sometimes if you wear a Student of the Gun crew shirt and you have a camera in your hand, network producers stop you and say, "What are you doing on my set?"
And then you tell them.
That's what I've heard. And then I tell them that they should probably walk away.
Then they should go away. And
I was very nice. I didn't want to overstep my bounds because we were.
Yeah, but who still has a TV show and who doesn't?
Yeah, there we go. Bam.
Yeah, that was one. You know what? Why don't we tell that story for the grad program? Here's what you're going to do right now. Go into the show notes. Go down to Friday's show notes and put asterisk, tell crew story to the grad program people, because that's something that it's kind of a family story. We're going to keep it in there, but yeah, that may or may not have happened. All right. Well, it being Monday, it is the SWAT Fuel Warrior of the Week Day. And you guys know how to do that, right? You want to be the Warrior of the Week? You do? Well, good. Call 682-207-7684. That is the official SWAT Fuel Warrior of the Week call-in number.
Dude, I made it super easy. I put a link that you can just click on your phone in the Student of the Gun mobile app.
Did you do that?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I haven't checked the app today.
So you go to the Student of the Gun mobile app, go to your Play Store or your iTunes Store or your App Store, download Student of the Gun mobile app, click on the Call Us button, and there's two numbers that pop up. One says Warrior of the Week line, one says Student of the Gun HQ, World HQ. I think that you can figure out which one to click.
Yeah.
Which would be the Warrior of the Week line.
Yeah, the Warrior of the Week. If you want to leave a question, because if you call here and you talk to either whoever answers the phone, Zach or Alex or somebody, I don't answer the phone here. But if you call them and you're like, hey, I got a question, write this down. Dudes, we want you to have your voice on the radio. And
that's not connected.
The shop phone is not connected to the radio. So.
You know what's funny? Is that I answer the phone sometimes, usually after 9 p.m. if I'm still here, and 9 p.m. our time.
Yeah.
And one time, Matt from South Korea called. And he's like, "Yeah, it's like 11 in the morning here." And I was like, "Oh, you're getting like breakfast or lunch or whatever," and I'm sitting here working on this stupid website. But it was funny.
All right. Well, do you want to go ahead and announce our Warrior of the Week, and we'll just dive right into that?
Do you want to go ahead and announce it?
Well, what is?
Well, first.
All right. First of all, because there are new people out there, tell them what their special prize is, Johnny. Johnny, tell them what they get for being the Warrior of the Week.
For being the Warrior of the Week, you get a free bottle of 9mm plus P. Dano from SWAT Fuel is going to send it to you. And if I choose you as the Warrior of the Week, I need you to email Alex at studentofthegun.com. That's ALEX at studentofthegun.com. Email her your name, your mailing address, your phone number, and include your email typed in the body, please.
Hey, this is Zach from the slave state of Washington, and my question for you guys is, you're always talking about your pocket lifesaver and carrying that on you in case of an emergency and you can't get to your vehicle where you have a larger kit. Do you guys have any recommendations for brands or what should be in that large bag or backpack for your first aid kit? Thanks again, guys. Appreciate all the episodes. Bye.
It's a good thing that SWAT Fuel ships to slave states.
Yeah, it is a good thing that they do. They're on the left coast. They're all the way out there on the left coast. So you should actually get your stuff pretty quick. But that is a good question. And what goes in your kit is based upon your skill level. Because it does me no good to tell you to put IV tubing and needles and bags and splints and braces and oral airways. And if I could tell you, hey, put all this stuff in your bag, and you say, okay, but I all I've done is Red Cross, Heimlich, and CPR. Well, it doesn't. What you want in your bag, primarily in your pack, is stuff that you are able to use, that you know how to use. So let's address the big three. Well, the big three injuries that can kill you, it's preventable death injuries, are massive hemorrhage, loss of an airway, and tension pneumothorax. Now, TPX, or tension pneumothorax, is a big word and it's scary to people, so we call it TPX. The TPX, the best way to do that, number one, is to prevent it from happening by sealing the hole, or slow it from happening by sealing the outside hole. But you might not have an outside hole. It might be a broken rib or something that punctured a lung. Now, this isn't the Beyond the Band-Aid class, so I'm not going to get into it too deep. But what do we need to do? We need to stop all that red stuff from spilling out onto the ground. It's not supposed to be on the ground. It's supposed to be in your body. So how can we do that? Well, we do that with tourniquets. And here's the dealio. If you need one tourniquet, you need two. You're like, geez, dude, I'm already carrying one. Now you're telling me to carry two? I'm telling you to carry one on you, but it's always a good idea to have more than one available. They're not that expensive. The RATS tourniquets are less than $20. Get a couple of them. Store them. If you like the cat tourniquets, rock on with your bad self. Store some cat tourniquets. If you're a Navy SEAL like our buddy Bill and you love the Ranger Ratchet, which is still bizarre to me, it's called a Ranger Ratchet tourniquet. But my best friend, who is a SEAL there, Bill, he swears by it. That's what you want. But the problem with the Ranger Ratchet is what, Jared?
It doesn't. You can't undo it. It's connected together. No. It's too big.
It's thick and heavy.
That's two problems for me. I don't like that you can't. Like if somebody's leg was stuck in a car.
Well, here's the deal with the Ranger ratchet is it's fantastic, and it shuts the blood off like now. And I'm like not joking. You get a big old fat thigh, and you need to shut the blood off in that. Man, you put a Ranger ratchet tourniquet on that, and it's going to shut it down quick, fast, in a hurry. However, they weigh like 4, 5, 6 ounces a piece, and they're really thick, and they're not something you're going to carry in a pocket. So where do people carry those? Well, those go into the bags. Those go into the backpacks. Those go into the larger pouches. Because if you're storing it in a vehicle, it's not weight and size are not that big of a deal. You know, the reason the Pocket Lifesaver exists is because it's something that you not only can, but will carry every day, even when you're not expecting any kind of a problem. You know, if something is going to become cumbersome, if it's going to be bulky, if it's going to wear holes in your pockets, eventually you're going to get annoyed and you're going to stop carrying it. And the day after you stop carrying it is when you're going to need it. So what are we going to deal with? Well, like I said, major bleeding, loss of an airway, and TPX. So the stuff that should go in your bag are things like pressure dressings, like ready-made, pre-made pressure dressings, extra gauze. You're like, well, how much gauze do I need? Dude, gauze is so cheap. It's a couple of bucks a roll. There is no reason for you not to have lots of gauze. Gauze, pressure dressings, ace bandages. If the Pocket Lifesaver does not come with a decomp needle on purpose, we've already talked about that in many different venues, so I'm not going to talk about it now, but you want to make sure your decomp needle's in there. The decomp needle really, it doesn't do you any good unless you know how to use it, but once you know how to use it, it's an invaluable tool. And also NPAs or nasal airways. People are all about the improvising medical gear. They're like, oh, belts and T-shirts and sticks and screwdrivers and you know, I'm going to make a tourniquet out of a T-shirt and a screwdriver and or a belt or whatever. Or I'm going to take I'm going to take shop towels. I'm going to stop the bleeding with shop towels. And okay, that's cool. And you can kind of improvise that stuff. Jared, how do you improvise an NPA, a nose hose?
With a straw.
Good luck with that. Yeah,
a very tough straw.
Yeah, really. Yeah,
you can't.
You can't. And how do you improvise a decomp needle? Yeah, exactly. Some stuff you can improvise on the street, in the field, out in the forest. Some stuff really is. Oh no,
a pen case.
Yeah, you're gonna.
You stab the pen through it. Yeah, and then you unscrew it, or a mechanical pencil, so that the pencil is hollow. So you inject them with the ink
get
or
TPX around Jared, because he's going to be shoving a mechanical pencil into your chest wall. Or you could just use the kit that you have. How about that?
Yeah, I could do that.
You can just use the kit.
Well, it depends on if I like you or not.
Yeah, that's right.
See, if you're next to somebody that I like and I don't like you, then I'm going to use the needle on them, and then you'll get a pen or a pencil.
All right, so you got a kit. Where can you go? You're like, Paul, where should I go? There's a really we buy a lot of our stuff from a company called EMP Med, or BUY, B-U-Y, EMP Med, or North American Rescue. Now, North American Rescue, actually, I've known those guys for a long, long time. When I was working full-time for the Department of Defense teaching small arms and tactics, and when we were doing the TCCC class, we bought a lot of our gear from North American Rescue. And they've got some really innovative stuff there. Now, obviously, you can get RATS tourniquets and the Pocket Lifesavers from studentofthegungear.com or SOTGU.com. SOTGU.com seems to be everybody's favorite because it's short and it's easy to remember. So if you're looking for RATS tourniquets, either orange or black, I heard that Jeff went insane and is going to make like a rainbow colors of RATS.
Orange is the new black.
Orange is the new black. You're a freak. But we do have orange tourniquets. We have Blaze orange RATS tourniquets, and then the black ones, of course, and the Pocket Lifesavers. So if you're going to have your kit, make sure that you have an additional tourniquet to the one that you already have on your body. B, lots of gauze, Kerlix gauze, whether it's vacuum packed or whether it's just in the normal plastic packaging. I don't care. The cool thing about the vacuum packing is it saves space and you can put more in there. Actual, real, no kidding pressure dressings like the ACE wraps or the H wraps. We're like, oh, no, dude, I know the Israeli battle dressings, they're the best ones in the world. Yeah, okay, whatever floats your boat, dude. A chest seal of some type would be a good idea. North American Rescue has a really Jim Dandy one called the Hyphen chest seal. It's not just one, it's two. And, other stuff like you can have like fluids. And one thing that we've talked about previously, and I know we're getting kind of long in this, so I'm going to wrap it up, is having enough gear that you can have other people help you. If somebody who isn't, you're on scene and you're like, man, this guy's bleeding, and a dude rolls up and jumps out of his car and he says, I'm a doctor, or I'm a nurse, or I'm a paramedic, or whatever. Now, if they're EMT or paramedic, that's the funny thing, Jared, is those dudes will have bags. Like EMTs and paramedics, they'll roll up and they'll jump out of their truck and they'll come running towards you with a bag. But doctors and nurses, they never will. I don't know what's up with that. Now, maybe you're like, hey, I'm a doctor and I carry a bag. Okay, good. But most of them, they're like, because they work in buildings where they give them all that stuff. Like I go to work in this big building and there's shelves full of stuff, and we use that stuff. But your EMT guys, generally if a paramedic, and if you got a dude, if you are lucky enough to be on an accident or a crash scene and an 18 Delta rolls by or a pararescue guy, you're golden. Because those guys, A, they all think they're emergency room doctors, and B, they all have backpacks full of stuff that they really want to use. Every pararescue guy or 18 Delta that I've ever known keeps a backpack full of stuff, and they remember we talked about Medical Man, Jared, with the cape? Medical Man! Every 18 Delta I've ever known runs around looking for people. They're the guys like, hey, what's wrong? Oh, I guess got this thing in. And like, take your shirt off, let me see it. Drop your pants, let me take a look at it. So hopefully, if you're friends with a pararescue guy or a Navy Corpsman are very similar to that, or an 18 Delta, they're like, I can pack that wound, don't sweat it. You don't need to go to the hospital, I can fix that. So there is your answer. I hope that is what you were looking for. And Jared is trying to convince me that we need to do a whole nother video series. So we'll see.
No, that's going to happen.
Oh, is that going to happen?
Yeah.
Is it like sex with Kobe Bryant? You can kick and scream all you want, but that's going to happen. What?
I don't know what you're talking about. Were you hanging out with?
I stole that from Peter Griffin.
Were you hanging out with Kobe Bryant?
It's like sex with Kobe Bryant. You can kick and scream all you want, but it's gonna happen.
That's funny. I didn't see that episode.
What? That's crazy talk. All right, I'm not going to leave you guys hanging any longer. We have a special interview today with Professor John Lott, the author of More Guns, Less Crime, and other books as well. But before we do that, because once I jump off that springboard, we're not coming back. So let's thank our friends at Frog Lube, froglube.com. It just works. Check those guys out. Century Arms. Oh, cool news. Century Arms has a special on the TP9SA where they're going to give you $25 off of the already ridiculously low price. I got an email from Dina this morning saying, Paul, can you tell your audience about this? And I said, Dina, you're so sweet. I will tell the audience anything that you want me to tell them, except maybe my PIN number. But everything else, Dina, if you would like me to share that with the audience, I will most certainly share it with them. So she said that they're running a special. And I'm going to open the email from her right now as we're talking. Man, this is so technologically advanced here. It's like... it says TP9SA Crush the Competition Special. TP9SA $25 consumer rebate, which is going to be going on from, it already began, July 27th all the way through September 15th. So what do you have to do? You're like, I don't understand. What do I have to do? You have to visit your local dealer and buy a TP9SA. And then once you bought it, download the rebate form, which would be on, I'm sure, the centuryarms.com/rebate. Well, that's pretty simple, right? So you go to centuryarms.com and you click on it. You send the rebate and the proof of the purchase. That would be the receipt for you guys. And they will give you a $25 rebate, which you're going to spend on ammunition if you're smart. So, yeah, that's pretty crazy. I'm carrying, actually, right now at this very moment in time, Jared, I'm going to verify.
You're going to verify? Okay, yeah.
What did I just verify to you?
That you're carrying a crossbreed holster, and it looks like a TP9 SA. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Duh.
I couldn't tell because it's like black and your shirt's black.
It's black and black.
I don't have my glasses on.
Why does it got to be black, man? Well, just because it is.
That's funny. I'm sure they heard you stand up and it come out of your holster and then put it back. Yeah.
All right. So anyway, yep, I'm carrying mine right now. Jared, are you carrying yours right now?
Yep.
Yep, you have your desert tan one.
Got it, yep.
So there you go. Century Arms, you want to save some money on an already ridiculously low price, do it. Moving on to Duracoat. If you didn't see the Duracoat pictures that we've done, shame on you. Go to Instagram, go to Student of the Guns Instagram and watch them. Follow us on Facebook, follow us on gundistrict.com. You can see the pictures of all the Duracoat stuff we've done. The can technology, it's kind of like, I don't do crack, but if I did crack, that would probably be what it would be like. Because once you start, here's what you're going to do to yourself. And it's okay. You're going to get one, and you're going to do a gun, and you're like, man, that turned out pretty good. I think I should do another one. And then you will do another one. Here's what everybody does. They do the gateway drug, Jared. They order one single color, and they do just a flat single color on a shotgun or a rifle or something, and they're like, man, that turned out pretty good. And then they start looking at the catalog, and they see all these different wild, crazy camouflage patterns and finishes and flames and skulls and all kinds of cool stuff. Because if you put flames on your gun, it shoots faster. So they're like, I bet I could do that. And then they knuckle down and they buy the kit with the templates and all the different colors and what have you. So check those guys out at Lauer Custom Weaponry, or you can order Duracoat where all fine Duracoat products are sold, which would be Brownells.com. Brownells.com, they've got all kinds of they've got new products. Check out the new products catalog. If you haven't, you really should. And also make sure that you sign up for their email list because they do weekly specials. And quite frankly, if you missed out on it, if you come in 3 or 4 days late when they do an ammo special, it's just going to be gone. And that's it. That's going to be your life. So check those guys out. Velocity Triggers. I promise that I'm almost done. Velocity Triggers at velocitytriggers.com. You get a black rifle, they have a trigger for you. And, of course, I am wearing a Super Tuck holster right now with my TP9 SA. Crossbreedholsters.com. They can help you carry a gun. All right, without further ado, it's time for our special guest. On the line with us right now is Professor John Lott. He's the author of More Guns, Less Crime, and he also works for the Crime Prevention Research Center.org. He's authored several books, and his original report is one that's been out. And if you're a gun culture person, you're probably familiar with it. But he has a new one, and it's not just him, and I'll let him talk about that. But it's called Concealed Carry Permit Holders Across the United States. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Professor John Lott. Thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me on. Yeah, the first work that I did was published in the Journal of Legal Studies with David Mustard, and then I had 3 editions of More Guns, Less Crime published by the University of Chicago Press. The first edition came out in 1998, and the third edition just came out in 2010. Those are really major pieces of work. I mean, I don't remember what it's like 600 pages or whatever the last edition was, but what this report that the Crime Prevention Research Center put out that people can get to by going to crimeresearch.org is somewhat less ambitious. What we wanted to do is to show how the number of permit holders have been changing over time and how the composition's been changing. And it's pretty dramatic. Just in the last year, there's been about 1.7 million new concealed carry permit holders. That's a dramatic increase. We've never seen such a large increase in 1 year. It brings the total to about 12.8 million. But even that's a very conservative estimate, because now there are 10 states where in all or virtually all of those states you can carry a permanently concealed handgun without having to have a permit. The three most recent states include Maine, Kansas, and Mississippi. Mississippi, as long as you carry it in a pouch or in a bag or something other than inside your pocket, you're allowed to carry concealed without a permit.
Yeah,
and so the issue is that since you have 10 states where you can carry without a permit, this 12.8 million is going to be an underestimate, possibly a pretty large underestimate of the number of people who actually legally carry or could legally carry in the United States. But it's more than that. It's more than just these big increases. We've seen a change in the composition of permit holders. Women are increasing at twice the rate that men are. They're still below men. About 25% of permit holders are women, but they're gaining at a much faster rate. And the same for blacks versus whites. Right now, about 8% of permit holders are blacks, but here's some music there, I guess. But they also, the permit holder rate for blacks is growing at about twice the rate that it is for whites. And so I think over time you're going to see dramatic changes in both of those groups also.
Well, as a firearms instructor, I've noticed that about 5 years ago, I noticed that women started showing up in droves. 10, 15 years ago, if we held a class and one woman showed up for the class, it was a big deal. And I was holding classes in 2009, 2010, and we would have 30 to 40% of the class were women, which is dramatic.
Right. No, it's been a dramatic change. And, it varies by state. Some states you have over 30% of the concealed carry permit holders are women, and some it's maybe a little bit over, 22, 23% are women. But I think nationwide it is changing, and it's going to continue changing. I think what's happening, if you look at surveys, is that both the views of women and blacks towards guns is changing fairly dramatically. Blacks even more so in just the last 4 years or so. You've seen a 25 percentage point increase in the percentage of blacks who think that owning a gun makes them safer. For women, it's not as dramatic, but it's still significantly more than it is for men. And I think there's strong reason for them to see that, because what you have is there's a lot of academic research out there that shows that women and the elderly, people relatively weaker physically, benefit much more than men do from having a gun. You're almost always talking about criminals being males, particularly young males. And when you're talking about a male attacking a female, there's a lot larger strength differential than a male attacking a male on average. And so the presence of a gun represents a much bigger relative change in a woman's ability to go and resist an attack than it does for a man. And there's another group that benefits the most are the people who are most likely to be victims of violent crime. And that overwhelmingly tends to be poor blacks who live in high crime urban areas. One of the things you see with the permit rules is the huge variation in how difficult it is to get a permit across states. In a place like Illinois, probably costs a total of about $450 to go through the permitting process, at least. In a state like neighboring Indiana, you can go through the entire permitting process for about $45, about 1/10 the price. And that affects not only the number of people who go and get permits, but it changes the mix of people who get permits. You're not going to see many poor blacks paying $450 just to get a permit. I mean, we're not even talking about the price of a gun there.
Yeah, no gun, no ammo. Yeah, so is it?
So basically, those rules, and I think it's on purpose, but those rules primarily disarm poor blacks, the very people who would benefit the most from having the option to be able to go and defend themselves.
And isn't it ironic that the same people that claim to love the poor and care for the poor set up policies that deliberately keep the poor helpless?
Well, I mean, I don't know if ironic is it, but surely it's contradictory.
Insidious.
I mean, I personally think it applies in a lot of different areas. You look at schools, where are the schools by far the worst? Even though they spend huge amounts of money, they're very bad in urban areas. And, the teachers' unions are very strong, and the Democrats are beholden to the teachers' unions. And unfortunately, what that means is that young black kids are shortchanged education in order to go and protect the jobs of teacher union members. So, I think there are many policies, not just this, but I think it's pretty consistent across the board who gets hurt by the types of policies that Democrats push. But, that's my view.
Well, do you want to talk a minute about the left's current statistician or professor that they got to come out with a counter survey to More Guns, Less Crime just recently?
Counter survey.
Yeah,
More Guns, Less Crime isn't a survey.
Well, I mean the book. No.
I mean, More Guns, Less Crime is looking at crime data and seeing how it changes after you account for lots of other factors when states issue more permits, and you find a range of different results. You find that those states that issue the most permits have the biggest drop in crime. You find that as more permits are issued over time, you see further drops in violent crime rates. You see differences across different types of crime. So, for example, violent crimes fall relative to property crimes. And the reason for that is that violent crimes, by definition, involve interactions between the victim and the criminal, and the gun can make a difference there. Property crimes, by definition, the victim isn't present when it occurs. You see differences in mass shootings versus murders generally. Mass shootings fall much more. Anybody who's read More Guns, Less Crime or seen my other work knows the reason for that. And finally, we have data looking at counties on opposite sides of state borders, and we find that counties and states that pass right to carry laws saw a big drop in violent crime rates right when the laws were enacted, but adjacent counties right across the state border in states without those right to carry laws saw small increases in murder rates and violent crime rates right at the time where the neighboring adjacent county that allowed carrying saw it fall. So I mean, those are generally the 5 broad category results. There are other results, but those are the main ones. So it's not a survey. It's basically looking at crime data in a lot of different ways. I mean, there's a little bit that deals with surveys, but that's more how changes in gun ownership is measured by the Voter News Service in states to see whether the states that have the biggest relative increases in gun ownership have seen the biggest drops in violent crime. But who in particular are you referring to?
Well, the Huffington Post and a couple of other left-wing sites, shall we say, debunking. No,
but who is the person that you're citing?
It's the Harvard Injury Control Research Center discovered a direct quote. It says John Lott wrote a controversial book, More Guns, that has been debunked by peer review. The Harvard Injury Control Research Center discovered yada yada yada.
Okay, if you go to our website at crimeresearch.org and just search under the name Hemingway, you'll find a discussion that we have there that kind of goes through. I can't remember it, but I know we have a lengthy discussion there about some of the problems with that particular report. So you just go to crimeresearch.org and search under the name Hemingway, and you'll find an extensive discussion there.
Well, the original book and the recent crime prevention report about concealed carry, it really flies in the face of the emotional arguments that we get. And it's funny, I've been paying attention ever since Florida passed their concealed carry, and way back in the 80s, 88, 89, they were screeching about how there was going to be blood in the streets and people are going to kill each other over parking spaces. And, of course, it never materialized. And every time...
permit holders are extremely law-abiding. I mean, one of the things that we point out in the report is that permit holders actually have a lower violent crime rate than, either misdemeanors or felonies than police officers do. And
I found that really interesting.
Extremely law-abiding. Police officers are convicted of violent crimes or misdemeanors at about 1/31st the rate of the general population. And concealed carry permit holders, I'm not saying crime never happens, but it's incredibly rare. I mean, it's even a tiny fraction of what it is for police.
And now that we've got 50 states that technically allow concealed carry, I don't know when they're going to be able to do the next Blood in the Streets report about, because it's a little bit late for that. It flies in the face, but that's not going to stop them. They're just going to have to change tactics.
Well, I think over the next year you're going to see some of those tactics. Michael Bloomberg, George Soros, President Obama through his administration are literally spending hundreds of millions of dollars on funding research like the Hemingway stuff and other foundations that are involved. And they are going to be reporting a lot over the next year. I mean, I don't think you've seen anything like the number of studies you're going to be seeing. You're going to see a tidal wave of studies. And, they've seen the polls. They know that the reason why people are opposed to more gun control is that they believe that guns make them safer. And so they're willing to spend hundreds of millions of dollars funding the type of research that they think can go and, change people's views. But look, the reason why we set up the Crime Prevention Research Center to begin with, and you can look at our academic advisory board, and I think we have some top people there, some of the top people in their area in the world, dealing with everything from crime generally to corporate crime to terrorist type instances, and mental health experts, and from people from Harvard, University of Chicago, Yale, other places like that are on our board. And I'm very proud that they're involved. But we know where a lot of data is. We don't have the resources. Obviously, we have like a few $100,000 compared to hundreds of millions of dollars. But with what we have, I mean, we'd like to be able to do more, but with what we have, we go and put out responses, academic responses to the types of articles that you were referring to earlier, and also try to put out our own research that we have confidence in, such as what we were talking about with regard to the concealed carry study.
And for some of our audience, I've been familiar with your work for at least 10 years, since it originally came out. But a lot of our audience is in their 20s. Can you give them a real quick background about you? When you started conducting the research that became the book, did you consider yourself in the pro-gun camp or an anti-gun, or were you just kind of in the middle? Did you expect to find what you were going to find?
I didn't expect to find what I was going to find. I was pretty much in the middle of the debate. I'm sure I was affected by the extremely negative media coverage of guns as much as anybody was affected. I've done a lot of work on crime. I've been chief economist at the U.S. Sentencing Commission. I taught classes at universities on crime issues, but I had never been interested in doing anything on guns. I was teaching at the Wharton Business School, and on a class that was dealing with crime, and I made the mistake of telling the students that we were a little bit ahead of the syllabus. So I had a couple of students come and ask me if it was possible that we could spend some time on gun control, and I said, oh, okay. But it forced me to go through the literature. I read some of it, but I'd always assumed I just accidentally happened to get the worst part of the literature, and it turns out it was all very bad. Small, tiny studies over short periods of time. None of the previous studies had even tried to account for something like the impact that law enforcement would have on crime rates. And so when you're an academic, there are two reasons that you do a study. One of them, the relevant one in this case, is that you think you can do a better job. The other one is that you think you have a new idea. But I thought I could easily do a better job, but that's usually not what's interested me. Usually what's interested me is having some new idea about something. And, I started looking at a range of different types of gun control laws, but the only one that seemed to produce a benefit systematically was the passage of right to carry laws. And the impact was pretty large. And when you find something that seems to systematically make people safer, it's hard to ignore that.
Well, we're all glad that you did, and we appreciate the effort that you put into it, and the effort that you put in every single day, you and your fellows, because we are in a fight. We're fighting a huge.
It's going to get worse.
Yeah, it's a huge propaganda battle. We're trying to use logic against people that don't use logic, that embrace emotion. And we've got a huge shame campaign that is coming down the pike to try and shame Americans into relinquishing their firearms or even not talking about them.
Well, if people want to be on our email list, they can go to our website at crimeresearch.org, and there's a little discussion there at the top of the page about how to sign up for our email list. And they can be on our emails, and they can see the type of work that we do and kind of be kept abreast of the claims that are being made and what are the best responses to them.
Well, Professor Lott, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, and thank you for all that you do. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Well, we certainly do appreciate Professor Lott taking the time to be with us here at Student of the Gun. He's been all over the place. He's been on Fox News. He's been, and I say Fox News, but he's been everywhere else too. And they've tried to. You know what's sad is and good on him for accepting these, because he's a smart guy. He's an academic, but they get invited on these panels. And they invite him to come, and then they'll. This is like, for instance, CNN or MSNBC. Their idea of fair and balance is to get one conservative and then have three flaming liberal statists come on and oppose them. Or, I like this one. Remember this one, Jared? When I did that thing for the British news agency, they had myself and another guy. Then they had three opposing, and essentially the host was an opposing as well. So, and we blew them all out of the water. They didn't even know what to say. A red herring, emotion, But let's take a moment to talk about this. We didn't want to bore Professor Lott with the details of his own research study. And it wasn't just him. He has a lot of people that work with him. It's John Lott, John E. Whitney, Rebecca Riley, Director of Communications, and then like he said, go to crimepreventionresearchcenter.org or crimeresearch.org. You see how they did the shortening, the URL, so people could find it easier, Jared. Mm-hmm. Did you notice that?
Yep.
But you can get this for free. Share it with your friends. Share it with like-minded individuals. And this is something that we have to fight emotion with logic, and it's really difficult because emotion is for the soft-minded, and that is what America is today. It's full of soft-minded people.
If you're part of the grad program, you got the study in an email from me. So
you're welcome. But go in there. It's not really that long. It's actually it's a grand total of 15 pages, but a lot of the pages are admin stuff, like talking about the advisory board and who's on it and so forth, and the source material. There's lots of source material on here. But essentially, and I didn't even realize how expansive it was. When he's talking 12 million, like in the report, it says like 11.1 million. Let me take a look real quick, see if I can find that total number. Was
11.2 to oh wow.
Yeah, and it says the data that they collected, and this was right up to, was it 2013?
Yeah, 2007 and between 2007 and 2013.
Yeah. So and we've got almost 2 full years since then. And like he said, originally they're like, well, we have a handful of states. Well, Mississippi now is one of them. We're kind of, like we've said before, Mississippi is kind of like constitutional carry light. It's not full constitutional carry. One of the things that they never talk about is the fact that Mississippi has a real, because this isn't something that's in the concealed carry legislation, but Mississippi has a very, very affirmative, strong castle doctrine. And you can legally carry a gun, not just in your home, but in your place of business, like, for instance, student of the gun university, or in your vehicle. Your vehicle is an extension of your home according to Mississippi state law. Now, unlike a lot of other states in the Union or people's republics like New Jersey and what have you, where they don't consider your vehicle to be an extension of your home, in Mississippi they do. So even if you're a Mississippi resident and you don't have a permit, you could actually carry a gun in a holster when you're in your house, when you're in your place of residence, when you're in your car, and let's say you don't want to get the permit, you don't want to get on the list, you don't want to spend the money, fine. When you get out, all you have to do is uncover it, and you're still legal. Or, like you said, now they have what they call the bag carry. So you can carry it in a pouch, a purse, a briefcase, a fanny pack, or whatever, and you do not need a permit for that. So really, and it's like, well, why would I want to get one? The big R, reciprocity. And they even talk about that in the study. Did you notice that, Jared?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
About how a lot of people that and we discovered that, or we talked about that on the show. They're like, well, why, if you lived in Arizona or Alaska or Vermont or wherever, any place that they has constitutional carry, why would you get a permit? And people from Alaska and Arizona are like, for reciprocity, so we can cross the state lines and be legal. I'm like, yeah, duh. Like, for instance, we talked about Florida, and Jared said that he was amazed at how many that Florida had, that was number one. And I'm not really amazed, because Florida has issued out-of-state permits, because, let's face it, Florida for probably 40 to 50 years has been a part-time state. How many people do you know go to Florida for half the year? Or how many Florida residents live there for half the year and then go back up north? They call them snowbirds. When people like Florida residents call the people that come down there for the winter, they call them snowbirds. They have for years and years and years. And Florida, understanding that they have a lot of part-time residents, a lot of people that come down from Michigan and Wisconsin and New York and so forth, and they spend, essentially October through April in Florida, and then they go back up north. So it only made sense for them, when you've got people that actually are, have Michigan driver's licenses or whatever, to give out-of-state permits. And you can, wherever you live, you can go ahead and apply, send them the money, fill out the paperwork and all that jazz, and you can get a Florida permit. And with a lot of states, if you're smart and you do research, Jared, we talked about this, right? Yeah, well, off air we did. But with a Florida permit and your home state permit, you're good essentially everywhere except, communist America. You're good everywhere except for a slave state like New Jersey or Massachusetts or, places like that. We recommend that you don't go to New Jersey or Massachusetts or New York or Maryland or Illinois or, those kind of places. We highly recommend you stay away from there. But in free America, as long as you stay in free America, you're good. You're within the law. So, is there anything else in that study that you wanted to talk about, Jared, before we let the kids go?
Yeah, it's interesting. Florida has 1.28 million, pretty much. And the next closest state, it looks like, is, just from a quick glance at this graph, this table, is Georgia, with 600,000 people that have concealed carry permits.
Did you look at Texas? No, Texas has 700,000.
Oh, 708,000. Yeah, there you go.
Woo! Texas people were like, whoa, hang on there, buddy. Texas people were getting all angry for a second.
Yeah. But another thing I was looking at here was this graph. It's murder. It's
Pennsylvania has 872,000.
Pennsylvania does?
Yeah.
Wow, I missed that number. Oh, that's why, because it's on. No, that's not on the next page.
No, it's at the bottom there. It's under P.
872. Yeah, that's wow. Okay, so Pennsylvania's next. But anyway, so he's got a graph on here that says, it's titled, "Murder rates have fallen as a percentage of the adult population with permitted concealed handguns has increased." and it looks like in 2013, the two values actually intersected. So the murder rate per 100,000 people actually fell lower than the percentage of adult population with concealed handgun permits, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
If you listen to the media, then they tell you that the more
blood in the streets, you can't. Yeah, and that leads us right into our final topic, and we talked about that with the professor. But Jared and I have shared these news reports or studies or whatever you want to call them. Basically, it's propaganda that's been generated by the Bloomberg Soros machine. And you say, well, why are you telling me this, Paul? Why are you bringing us down? Why are you sharing this propaganda crap with us? Because you need to know about it. You absolutely 100% need to be prepared to address this and deal with it because, as we discussed, Soros and Bloomberg, under the with the grinning smile of Comrade Barry and his ilk, are spending millions upon millions of dollars to generate propaganda to attempt to shame you into, or shame your neighbors, or what have you. We talked about that slut shaming during last week on Student of the Gun Radio. How many people
last Monday
have guns? That was military slut shaming, but it was the gun owner when we were talking about the Mookie story about people who actually went out and got concealed carry permits and have guns and own guns, but they don't talk about it. I don't talk about it around my neighbors because I don't want them to think I'm crazy, or I don't want them to think I'm paranoid. And that is, how do we convince an armed populace to willfully disarm themselves, Jared?
Ignorance, distraction, and guilt. Ignorance,
distraction, and guilt. And that's what it's all about. All these stories from Salon.com and the Center for Prevention of Gun Violence and all that nonsense, those are generated very purposely and deliberately to shame you into shutting up about guns, or to convince your on-the-fence neighbors and relatives that, well, see, I really knew that these gun people were wackos. I knew deep in my heart, and this new story from Salon.com just proves it, that conservative white men with guns are the biggest threat to America today. Watch it. It's happening, and that's why it's so important for us to pay attention and to do what we do each and every day. Is that not correct, Jared?
That is correct, Jared.
That is correct, Jared. All right, well, we hope you enjoyed that special interview. We really do appreciate Professor Lott taking time out of his ridiculously busy schedule, because this guy's he's on big-time stuff, man. He's on big-time stuff, and he took the time to talk to the little guys at Student of the Gun. We think that was nice of him. Make sure that you do go to the crimepreventionresearchcenter.org or crimeresearch.org and take a look at it. And like you said, he's not funded by Bloomberg and Soros and all these other leftist billionaires. They're trying to do it on their own. So why don't you buy his freaking book, you hippie? Go to Amazon.com and buy More Guns, Less Crime. There you go. And while you're there, you can pick up a cup. No.
You know what's crazy is I'm looking at the top of their website, crimeresearch.org.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And it says, remember when he said to go to their website and subscribe? The way you subscribe, it says, to subscribe to the CPRC, write us at info@crimeresearch.org and put subscribe in the subject line. He needs help.
Oh, my God.
Mr. Lott, if you listen to this after the fact.
No, you need to contact Rebecca.
Oh, okay. Rebecca, if you happen to listen to this, or if anybody that knows her, tell her that she needs to get a hold of me, and I'll help them.
Yeah, that's how yeah, Rebecca, that day. I'll send you the email. All right, kids, that's it for Monday. We hope that you enjoyed it, and we hope that you remember you're a beginner once, but you should indeed be a student for life.